So the third and deciding game of the match between Atlas Lions and the Fister Sisters is going to be played yet again on Ghost Lake, even though this time it has been selected by the randomizer. So it wasn't anyone's home map, so kind of lucky for the Atlas Lions because this was the home map of them. So let's see if it's going to be paying off. Looking at the civilizations, Nurgath Loki, Flash Thor, and Zeus is back Kronos right now, so that's a switch from Zeus, as it apparently wasn't really working for him in the first two games. I hope that it will be slightly better, but Kronos on Ghost Lake, that's gonna equal as the Zeus or equal, quite similar, so should be pretty much fine. Otherwise, on the other side of the map, we are going to be seeing Papercut as Loki, Joe as Set, and Narve as Loki, so the same lineup as in the last game from Dots. Right now we are going to be starting with Nulgat, who is moving into the berries as well. So let us see if he's gonna find a hunt sometime soon or not. Right, I'm moving away the Ulfsak, trying to find it. Not really seeming to be having any kind of luck. Ah, he is actually in luck. And he is discovering the Aurochs, so he should be moving in there sometime soon, because this is not really all that far away into the game, that he should be pretty much fine, just a half minute, not even. So he's having, as you can see, a lot of food still left for the villages, and I'm fully expecting that this shouldn't be having any kind of effect on idle TC, and in the long run, it should be working quite much better for him, because of course, this will also result in hunting dogs being researched, as of course he was going for that for the very start. In the middle, we are seeing that Flash is having pretty decent hunt as well, together with the gold, so not really bad position for him potentially, especially because of the TC in the front, which is in front of whom? I would be thinking that of the red player. Let's cheat a bit because we don't have Oranos, so that's very unusual not having Oranos in the game. And the gold, wide open through the left, of course, and even though it's not a bad position, and he can basically protect the villages through the TC very easily, send them into the TC quite fast, it's still not ideal, as it will still mean that his economy is not going to be all that powerful. Otherwise, the second goal is much better, so that's at least something that going for him in this game. Gold behind the base. And how much of a gold is there behind the base is a lot of it. Much more than in the first spawn. You can see 3 golds in here. But not much for Nulgath. So he has all the gold on the left. So he will have to be quite careful about how he plays this game. Otherwise he'll have to rely on something behind Zeus's back. And of course that player Flash as well. Whereas in the front, of course, a lot of gold, but that's kind of usual for no Ghost Lake, so nothing that should be surprising us all that much. Nurgath right now casting the Spy, or it looked like that he was, but you haven't really seen it, so it was probably cast a bit earlier. And having pretty decent Aurochs right next to the berries, but much more importantly, he's having some extra caribous with berries right next to his front TC yet again. So that should allow him to somehow control the map, and since the TC of Nulgath is quite close by also, this is super close. Basically, I'm kind of expecting that who controls one of those TCs is going to be kind of controlling the second as well. So let's see who's gonna play better and who that one is going to be. Otherwise, we are seeing pretty decent amount of golds for Papercut in the pocket. The save gold and also the Caribous in the front. So that's going to be where he will move once he's out of the Aurochs, as he doesn't seem to be having anything in the back. Yep, not much of anything. And moving to the last player from the ATs of Death, that's going to be Joe on the right, facing against Zeus. He's back against the Kronos, and he is having pretty decent gold, of course, for him. The second one is also safe, so this is very nice spawn for an Egyptian, and he will be quite safe, even though I don't really like the placement of gold for him, because there is nothing, there is just gold at the bottom for a lot of his teammates. Basically the same spawn as at the top, quite similar. But since he's Egyptian, he will be the one needing them, so he might be forced to go with villages to some unfortunate position quite far away from his own base, which often is a bit of a risk because you might be forgetting that you are having villages there, especially since, or rather when, your allies are potentially not warning you against any kind of raiding. In the meantime, he's of course gathering from the hunt in the front. There is still a lot of hunt to be had. You can see that he's basically trying to steal it. This is not like going for some powerful animals, because of course he would be much more interested not in goats, but in the polar bears. Maybe some wolves, if they are in here, sometimes they are. Don't really see them, just polar bears so far. So he is basically just trying to make sure that he steals the food source from his opponent. And that's a very valid strategy, because it will slow Zeus back down, and that's exactly what Joe needs. And he can even send them home. So send them home and basically be the food source for him. So that's something that's also that also shouldn't be underestimated and forgotten. The construction on Temple right now, we are at 4:30, so I think that's a pretty good timing. Oh, just a bit too late, or rather soon. Which is pretty unlucky, to be honest, because who would expect that Narvik would be advancing so late? He's really advancing pretty late. Up 5 minutes. That's for a Norse. Very, very late. So unfortunately it's not going to be working for him as much as he would have hoped, but he still is sending just one Ulfsak, and he's actually going to be late. Wow! Narvik, come on. Yeah, well, he just lost the troll. Good job. That sucks. That sucks big time. Not exactly sure why he was actually losing it, but since he's advancing so late, his game was probably somehow disrupted. So in the end, it did work out quite nicely for the opponents, and that will basically stop him from any kind of raiding. You can see that Joe is right now going to be trying to basically bail him out and help his teammate, and that's exactly as we have seen in the 2 previous games, trying to get rid of the hand of his opponent Nulgath. Yep, exactly needed. And even though there's going to be, of course, a double from Zeus's back, let's see if these shifting sands are going to be basically putting a stop to this kind of plan. In the meantime, one of the Valord oracles is dead, whereas the second one is, and the third one are going for a troll, as Vaporcut is also going to the left, because they have of course seen the double, and it seems like that both Norse are going to be having a fun on the left, whereas the third one, Joe, is going to be a bit booming, I would be expecting. And then, switching into the heroic, and of course, with the Migdol, he should be helping his teammates enough. Well, right now we are switching from basically attack on blue's base into attack on yellow's base. With of course green still having a pretty decent amount of animals, and much more importantly, other units like the budget and the priests. So purple is basically just following up. And are we going to be seeing some follow-up by blue as well? Well, so far he is just now going for ice in the forest, of course, having just a one longhouse. But it's kinda okayish at this stage of the game, considering what kind of bad start he was having. And it seems like that Flash will be joining with the fun on the left side, and it's basically going to be developing into... It's almost looking like that all 3 players from Atlas Lions will be fighting at the same side, because it doesn't seem like that Teal is all that interested in going somewhere else. You don't even see Red going for some kind of raid, and he's just going full on onto the left, even though there's a bit of raiding going up by Zeus's back, but it's going to be pretty much it, I'm thinking. Everything else is going to be concentrating on the left side. And the battle, yeah, well, definitely, of course, as expected, going for Atlas Lions because they are having the numbers, but they have to be careful because, of course, they should be right next to each other if they want to succeed in the push forward. In the meantime, Temple has been transported somewhere safe, and of course, that means that Narvi will be free to go into first wall in to protect the TC. And it's basically just to protect the town center, and right now even the gatherers on the berries. Then he will be basically joining with his purple teammate and trying to somehow topple their opponents, who are still at just one spot. If it wasn't for this small raiding by Zeus's back and quite clever switching of the military barracks, but I'm thinking that that green is actually full there. And even if he wasn't just now, he's in it, he would be as soon as those guys were gathering gold somewhere around, like at the bottom side on the right side. But of course, we are seeing that they're seen. Second TC for Joe, of course. They are looking at pretty decent army from Flash. And a bit of raiding by Papercut, who is attempting to find something to kill, and he will succeed if he goes all the way. Let's wait with him. Because there is no spy, so he's just basically going by memory. Papercut. Oh well, there is absolutely no scouting by them, unfortunately. Okay, so that's the reason why he won't be continuing. And a bit of lucky break for the red player, of course. But of course, this also means that he's going to be attempted to be raided right next to gold miners, but it shouldn't be all that effective because not only is he returning back with all the army, but much more importantly, this is too close to the TC and even to the towers if you want to hide the villages somewhere. We have heard that the purple player has actually built armory. We are seeing one from the red player as well. So we should be expecting a bit of an upgrade time pretty soon. And well, Narvi is finally at 9 minutes getting ready for a bit of raiding himself. So is he gonna get lucky into those guys? No, he won't, because they are just now finishing. Going to be safe right next to the next gold mine. As the back TC has been just captured by him, and it seems like the Flash is having basically the same idea, and same is true for Zeus's back, who is already finished with it. So it's looking like that all three players from Atlas Lines are at 2 TCs, whereas for the opponents it's just Joe at 2. But I'm kind of thinking that maybe Papercut would be interested in taking a TC himself, because he seems to be in a pretty good spot, not losing any kind of units as such, as we are looking at Zeus's back attempting to kill the tower, and that's a pretty important tower, because that was the one making sure that his gold is not that easily assailable. That's not true anymore, and that is a problem for Joe, because he doesn't have safe gold behind his base. His safe gold is basically this, which is going to be running out pretty soon. He advancing into the next age yet? No, he isn't. He doesn't have the food, as you can see. Like, literally no food. Literally no food, but he's also doing at least a good job in trying to defend himself. But still, he will need a lot of extra help, because Zeus's back seems to be playing quite well against him and against what Joe is right now attempting to be playing. So open gold. As red is arriving in the middle as well, going for a bit of raiding on the hunters, and well, unfortunately purple has noticed a bit too late, so the medium wolf sarks are gonna kill at least a few of those. Yeah, tower is also quite far away, even though it is researched. Oscar dead and two villages dead as well. It wasn't half bad raiding on the food source in here, as we are looking at front TC, just now being captured by Narve, and in the meantime he is also having a bit of fun with raiding, as Flash doesn't have enough of a defense and he doesn't have research towers. In the meantime, Zeus's back is also switching with the military building to the middle, so that he is kinda all across the map, ready for whatever he wants to do, and we are still seeing these military barracks right next to gold, but of course, since this is a position that basically Teal cannot handle all that much and keep alive all that much, he is quite right to move it somewhere else, like potentially next to the TC. I'm thinking that he should be really working on securing the TC, because if he doesn't, there is going to be a pretty big risk of a push with Ancestors from Joe when he advances into the next age. Brag right now for Papercut. As we are seeing Zeus's back, unfortunately, for him throwing units away right now, 30C being captured by Joe, whereas there's a pretty decent raiding at the back, but unfortunately not killing any kind of villages, but still, at least catching a bit too small army to be dealing with it, be dealing with the raiding off guard and getting some units killing there, which is also something that does count. And it's right now turning into gold trading. In the meantime, of course, there's going to be continued trading by Papercut in the opponent's base at the top, trying to make something happen, and in concert with him, you can see that Narve is also working on that, killing something on the left, whereas he is also having second raiding party on the right, trying to find literally anything that he could kill, but still, these guys are kinda half dead, and they are just waiting to be put under the ground. In the meantime, quite a safe hunt and food gathering whatsoever. By Nougat on the left, potentially easy to find, but let's see about that, as of course Papercut is right now going for second DC, and it's going to be one that he's gonna steal from the opponents, which I think is a good choice, because the opponents don't seem to be in a great situation. They don't have all that big army, and he seems to be handling the situation quite well, especially with the help by Narve. And it doesn't look like that Atlas Lines should be having any kind of good position to take the TC down, which is exactly what will count for his position on the opponent's side of the lake. TC going to be attempted by Zeus's back, like that it should be finishing. Joe shouldn't be really able to do anything about it. Now, are we going to be seeing the heroic finally from Joe or not? Potentially, yeah. He seems to be slowly aiming that, but maybe a bit too slowly. We are already at 30 minutes. So at this stage I'll be expecting that Egyptian would already be heroic, so he's definitely prolonging his classical fight quite a lot longer than would be prudent. And he's risking quite a lot because of course Atlantean's early economy is strong, and if he can get into heroic sooner, play some palaces at some good placements like next to the gold mines and such, he might be able to push through with the destroyers. And yeah, well, situation will be kinda tough for Joe overall. Are looking at right now red base, because purple is facing a pretty strong army of red, and flaming weapons should be definitely cast, because this was basically an army against an army, and we are seeing both of them casting them, and this usually should result in the player who casts them first to win. But looking at the brutal counter units by Flash, you can see basically just only Heresiers, whereas Flash is having a ton of throwing axemen. And of course the fact that we are right next to the military buildings of the red player, this should be coming into the Atlas line's favor, especially with yellow help right now, which means that Paper Cut basically, yeah, I was going to say wasted the flaming weapons, but not really. You can see he's still continuing, so that's kind of weird. Why was Yellow actually going back? This is kind of misplayed by Atlas line, but at the end, to finish my thought, it wasn't all that much of a waste because he forced flaming weapons of the opponent as well. And that counts. If it's 1 for 1, it still counts. If it was just basically wasted, his opponent dealing with this army without needing to use it, then it would be waste. But if you get some kind of effect in return, like forcing your opponent to cast God Power as well, then it's not wasted at all. Finally towers up, as this one is still not finished, as we are looking at the Chaos Boar getting that. And we are seeing also pretty decent right now amount of giants together with the boars assailing the TC of Flash, so that's going to be lost. I don't really see how we could be defending against this. Even with the Heresiers, it should be a bit too late, even though it's going to be damn close. Well, not even so close in the end. So goodbye TC, that was well worth it. And Flash is at just 1, which basically means that Narvit together with Paper Cut, who has already established himself with the hill fort as well, so he has 1 extra gold, and much more importantly, this TC is not coming down anytime soon. This means that the position in here is going to be quite precarious for the Atlas Lions, and they need to be super careful. But at the same time, Joe, exactly. This is exactly why the Egyptians need to advance into heroic ages, because the classical fighting, they can hold on. But it's a pretty big risk. It's a pretty big risk because you are opening yourself to be outmaneuvered. Because let's face it, classical army doesn't have the same maneuvering capabilities as chariot archers or cavalry in the heroic age for Egyptians. That's also something that should be taken into mind as the advantage in the heroic age for them, and that means that the TC has been stolen. And Zeus is back is at 4, which is not such a great thing, but it is important for him. Because of course he does have some extra support once Joe is going into counteroffensive, and it will allow him to potentially finish with the palace and set himself up and basically be annoying to the opponent's economy. So right now, are we seeing the heroic? We are not seeing the villages, so we should be seeing the heroic. But though for heroic is already in, but of course it was a bit too late. It was a bit too late, but seems to be that he is now quite nicely set up for the War Elephants. And they will be basically the correct answer. So yeah, Zeus is back. He did have the correct idea with stealing the TC, but right now he needs to go into full-on defensive, and he definitely needs some kind of help. And the construction on the middle is definitely nice, but unfortunately there's one waiting just behind. And Joe seems to be quite nicely set up, as unfortunately, even though the Raiden for Zeus's back looked quite strong in the early game, it didn't seem to do all that much of a damage in the end into Joe's economy. And seems he's basically full popped right now at 17 minutes. Well, that's to be expected. He's having enough economy for the elephants, and that's going to be a tough unit to deal with. And Zeus's back should be switching into either more Milos or maybe even catapulties. In the meantime, Narvi just establishing himself with yet another hill fort for his team, so yeah, they are not really giving up on this position anytime soon. But in the meantime, Nulgath is at least attempting to take a front TC. Seems to be succeeding, because there's... Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that maybe the board didn't see it, or maybe Narvi didn't see it in the meantime, but he did, and the army is coming to the bottom, which of course means that there's going to be a bit of an encounter, which is in Ulgath's favor, as the mythical units are just going to be a bit better against the throwing axemen, of course. So nicely played, as we are also seeing that red is switching with the gold to the right side, which is of course not going to be safe for much longer because of the TC right now captured by Joe and the Migdol. So he is in a position that should be quite okay, as even though he's fighting Zeus's back, who was just a bit earlier at 3 TCs, it seems like that the Egyptian is right now going to be seriously unstoppable. As, yeah, Zeus's back is not going to be having enough against this. And the vision with Tornado being cast at Red's base, and of course there's going to be goodbye TC, because there's not much else that the Tornado could be killing in there. Did I hear the rock actually dying or some such? Or some bird dying, something like that. Not sure. But of course TC down, which is of course a pretty big problem, as Flash is losing the population, and right now it is going to be exactly at the correct placement, rather correct time, because Flash is gonna lose a whole lot of units and he won't be able to replace all that many of them. So nicely played in here, as Zeus's back is through Atlas. There's going to be Implosion going to be cast on... Not here, of course, but where is it being cast? Aha, in here. In Green's base, trying to get rid of both the Ancestors that have been cast and a few Elephants and some Siege Towers. And this will result in a few buildings dead. Very important buildings dead. And oh, interestingly enough, 3 Elephants are still very much alive. And oh my, that's not something actually well, that Joe will be all that happy about, because of course those dudes, oh man, they're going to be killing what they can find. And so far that's villages. That's kind of funny. But still, it also means that Zeus's back is right now forced down to 2 TCs, and he's being forced back from the position as Joe is establishing himself quite nicely, and it seems to be having pretty decent upgrades while starting in their copper shields. 20 minutes, maybe gonna be slightly better, but of course this gold is not going to be Reds anymore, and the push 40 Cs against 2 right now should be coming into Joe's favor, as opposed to what I expected a bit earlier by Zeus's back being at 4 against Joe's 2. So he advanced through heroically just at the nick of time. I'm just curious about this red blob at the bottom. You can see that was some hidden Ulfsar going for a bit of a back build right next to goal, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be all that effective, as even though he will disrupt the Narw's back TC, it's still not going to be strong enough, as Nidhogg is being cast right on top of the army. And well, Nulgath probably going to be cast in. But against him, yeah, they're gonna be seeing probably a fight of the Nidhoggs. But in the meantime, they're of course gonna be helping with the armies. Yeah, propulsion getting a bit back, as right now the yellow Nidhogg is doing a slightly better job. And the Battle of the Nidhoggs is here. But not fully. That's a bit of a shame. I'll be liking that they actually fight each other. But we are seeing that Nulgath is right now resigning, as the battle seems to be getting out of his hands. And that's of course also because there's a simultaneous push on Flash through the extra population with that paper cut is having, even though he's at just 2 TCs. And a building one to be at 3rd. But really the situation is not great, and they are not having really enough luck in holding on, even though they are still holding at least for a few minutes more. But on the right side there's not much of a chance that Zeus's back would be holding against this brutal attack by Joe, and that would just continue into Red's base, and yep, the end would be kinda inevitable. GG then, and congratulations the Fister Sisters for turning the match around against Atlas Lions, winning 2-1 and advancing into the semifinals of the Bad Luck Bracket. Let's check the post game. Joe at the top. Well, yeah, no, I would be thinking that the Norse players did slightly better paper cut, especially. And I kinda liked how Zeus's back played this game. He was putting pressure on Joe as he should. Yep, I think this was his best game overall. Then it was just the Eggy thingies that beat him, because he wasn't effective enough. He was still present and was pesky on Joe, Zeus's back, but he didn't really kill the economy all that much. And when you are going against Eggy, that's something that you want to do. You cannot really allow him to boom him all that much, because then the elephants can happen, for example. Nothing interesting in the graphs? Probably not. A lot of that release or flash at this stage. Not exactly sure what happened in there. Ah, that was after flame weapons apparently. Quite close to it. Oh, he was probably raided in there. Okay, GG.